Okay, let's dive in. We're going deep on one of the most, I think, intriguing and layered figures in modern British culture.
Hmm.
You might know him in a deerstalker hat, a velvet cloak, or maybe just as a master of the stage.
We are talking, of course, about Benedict Cumberbatch.
But we're going beyond the banner rolls. This isn't just a list of his greatest hits.
Exactly. The mission today is to really unpack the whole picture. We're looking at the immense, diverse catalog of work, but also the very complex ancestral background.
On the personal experiences,
Yeah.
some of which are, frankly, shocking.
Right. We're not doing a standard biography. We're trying to trace the factors that elevate him beyond just being a successful actor to, well, a true modern cultural icon. He really is an enigma of influence.
And the sources we've pulled together, articles, deep research, critical reviews, they all paint this picture of a man who operates at this strange intersection.
What intersection is that?
It's classical theater, massive Hollywood franchises, and really significant global activism. To get him, you have to grasp all three of those pillars right from the start.
And I think we should immediately establish the sheer scale of his achievement. It's important because that provides the foundation for the platform he now uses for that activism.
It's his credibility.
It is. This is someone who has been repeatedly recognized by the establishment, and that recognition is crucial to his overall status.
Okay, so let's hit that accolade snapshot straight out of the gate. We're talking about an actor who is not only critically acclaimed, but also highly decorated by the British state.
Yeah, he's the recipient of a CBE, a Commander of the Order of the British Empire.
And that's a huge deal.
It is, and this isn't just a ceremonial title. He received it in 2015, and the citation was explicit for his services to the performing arts and charity.
Arts and charity. That's the key right there.
It's so telling. It links his professional life directly with his philanthropic work, which, we're going to analyze in a lot of detail later on.
And then there's the actual performance hardware, which is just immense.
Oh, yeah. He has a BAFTA TV award, a Primetime Emmy Award, and a Laurence Olivier Award.
For a global audience, just break down why that specific combination is so important, that Olivier in particular.
The Olivier is the absolute apex of London theatre. It's the Tony Award of the UK, basically. So by securing an Olivier, a BAFTA, and an Emmy, he demonstrated complete mastery across the three major performance mediums.
Stage, British television, and international television.
Exactly. But the real jewel, I think, is that Triple Crown of London Theatre win for Frankenstein, which we'll get to. It means he is revered not just in Hollywood, but in the serious intellectual heart of the performing arts in London.
And that classical foundation, that respect, it translated globally. He has 2 Academy Award nominations for Best Actor.
For The Imitation Game and The Power of the Dog.
And 4 Golden Globe nominations.
Okay.
So it shows he can do Alan Turing and Doctor Strange, and the critics respect both performances. That's incredibly rare.
That versatility and recognition, that's what establishes his influence factor. He isn't just famous, he drives cultural conversations.
Right. Time magazine saw this happening way back in 2014.
They did. They put him on their list of the 100 most influential people in the world. He manages to span these vastly different spheres, from the intellectual period biopic to the massive comic book movie, and somehow he remains immensely respected across all of them.
It seems like that blend of highbrow talent and mainstream reach is really his defining characteristic.
And you can trace the roots of that right back to his childhood and his education.
Let's do that. Let's move into our second section, formative years and antecedents. This is where we see that classical training meet a very complex personal history.
His background immediately sets him up for this kind of path. He was born Benedict Timothy Carlton Cumberbatch in Hammersmith, London in 1976.
And his parents were actors?
Established actors, yeah. Timothy Carlton and Wanda Ventham. So he has this immediate theatrical lineage. He also has a half-sister, Tracy Peacock, from his mother's first marriage.
And the education foundation is where the discipline really kicks in. He was sent to boarding schools from a surprisingly young age.
From age 8, yeah. First at Bramblety and then at the very prestigious Harrow School.
Which is, of course, one of the foremost public schools in the UK. And he went as an art scholar, so his talent was recognized early.
And that foundation immediately put him on the stage. Literally. He made his theatrical debut at Harrow when he was 12.
Playing Titania, Queen of the Fairies, in Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream.
It's almost fittingly meta, isn't it? Playing a major female role, which was, just common in the all-male school tradition.
But his first leading role was Eliza Doolittle in Pygmalion. When you hear that, you realize he wasn't just performing. He was displaying this transformative capacity even then.
Apparently, his head of classics at the time noted he acted everyone else off the stage.
And his drama teacher, Martin Tyrrell, called him the best schoolboy actor he had ever worked with.
So the talent was clear, it was overwhelming, undeniable. But here's where the narrative gets interesting.
The warning.
The warning. Despite that massive endorsement, that same drama teacher warned him against pursuing acting as a career, calling it a tough business.
It's the classic caution, isn't it? The wisdom of an experienced teacher trying to protect a star pupil from the inevitable rejections of the industry.
But before he completely defied that warning, he took this fascinating and highly contrasting path with his gap year.
This gap year is such a huge piece of the puzzle.
It is. Instead of going straight into university or drama school, he volunteered for 5 months. He taught English at a Tibetan monastery in Darjeeling, India.
Just think about that contrast. The rarefied air of Harrow, one of Britain's most elite schools, and then the high altitude of a remote monastery. It's profound.
And he didn't just have it handed to him. He funded the entire experience himself by working for 6 months. He took jobs at the luxury perfumery Penhaligon's.
And waiting tables.
So this self-reliance and this exposure to a totally different world living by very limited means, as he later described it, it must have really shaped his philosophical outlook. It moved him beyond that privileged upbringing.
And that grounding, that experience, it sets him up for his professional preparation. He studied drama at the Victoria University of Manchester.
And then he went for the specialized, rigorous training at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, LAMDA.
Right, where he got an MA in classical acting, that dual-track academic, and then specialized. It just underscores his commitment to intellectual rigor and performance.
And the loyalty to that place is so strong. In 2018, he succeeded Timothy West as the president of LAMDA.
So he's not just an alum. He's the institutional figurehead for the next generation of classical actors.
Which brings us to the most complex and, I would say, critical detail of his life, a detail that really frames all his later activism.
The weight of his ancestry.
And the family's historical connection to slavery. This is not a footnote. It is structurally crucial to understanding the man he is today.
This is deeply sensitive territory.
Mm-hmm.
What is the precise origin of the family's wealth and this connection to historical injustice?
It traces back generations to his 7th great-grandfather, Abraham Cumberbatch. He acquired significant properties in St. Andrew, Barbados, back in 1728.
And these properties, including the famous St. Nicholas Abbey, were what? Sugar plantations.
Sugar plantations run entirely by the labor of enslaved people.
And we're not talking about small holdings here. The scale of the operation was massive enough to generate immense generational wealth.
Absolutely immense. The family's peak wealth came directly from this. His great-great-great-grandfather, another Abraham Perry Cumberbatch, was an absentee landlord. He owned the Cleland and Lammings estates.
And we have numbers for this.
We do. Critically, we know that the Cleland plantation alone enslaved 250 human beings. This was the explicit, documented main source of the family's considerable wealth, placing them among the richest families in Britain at the time.
And the British government officially confirmed this transfer of value after abolition.
Yes. In 1837, under the Slave Compensation Act, Abraham Perry Cumberbatch received £5,388.
And that was money paid by the British government to slave-owning families.
To offset the loss of their property, the enslaved people, after the Slavery Abolition Act of 1833.
Just to put that into perspective for you listening, $5,388 in 1837 was a vast sum of money. We're talking many millions in today's terms.
And it provided the family with the capital to transition from plantation ownership into other, less morally fraught forms of investment, securing their place in the British upper classes for generations.
That's the legacy he carries. It's the engine of his family's historical privilege.
Right. And in the modern context, this resurfaced dramatically in 2023.
We saw all that media speculation that the Barbados National Task Force on Reparations might pursue compensation from the Cumberbatch family.
Similar to their approach to the wealthy British MP Richard Drax, whose family also owned plantations there.
And the actor, when he was faced with this historical weight, he offered a personal defense. He tried to distance himself from the direct benefit of it.
He did. He stated that by the time he was born, most of the money had run out, and that his upbringing was definitely middle class. He was suggesting the family was no longer operating on the basis of that original fortune.
But is that a believable defense for an A-list star? Or is it more of a calculated public relations response designed to deflect the sheer moral weight of that inherited history.
Well, it's a complex piece of rhetorical maneuvering, isn't it? I mean, while he is certainly not the direct slave owner, his current status is undeniably underpinned by the privileges that were secured by that historical wealth.
Like the ability to attend Harrow.
The ability to attend Harrow, the ability to pursue a grueling and often poorly paid career in theater, and to maintain that cultural cachet, it all links back. It's the difference between being personally rich now and being institutionally privileged then.
And crucially, Barbados officials had to step in to quell the media firestorm.
They did. They called the speculation about targeting the actor specifically deceptive and misleading British yellow journalism.
So the nuance here is vital. The historical fact is undeniable. But the media's laser focus on him as an individual for immediate reparation was criticized by the very people seeking justice.
That is the crucial balance. The ancestry is a fact he cannot escape, and I think it profoundly contextualizes why he feels such a fierce commitment to modern social and political causes. It feels like his activism is a conscious effort to counteract that inherited shadow.
Before we move on to his career, we should quickly mention his other, perhaps less weighty but still fascinating ancestral connections.
On the diplomatic side, his lineage includes Robert William Cumberbatch, who was a great-great-grandfather. He served as a British consul in the Ottoman and Russian empires.
And another, Henry Alfred Cumberbatch, a consul in Turkey and Lebanon. So there's a family line of high-level service and international engagement.
And then there's the fun footnote, the one that always makes the headlines.
He is related to King Richard III, his third cousin, 16 times removed.
It's a wonderful piece of historical symmetry, isn't it? Especially since he portrayed Richard III in the BBC series The Hollow Crown.
Wait, he actually read a poem at Richard III's reburial in 2015.
He did. He read a poem by the poet laureate at the time, Carol Ann Duffy.
That ability to jump from royal lineage to the weight of historical slavery and then into modern blockbusters, that's precisely the tension that makes him such a compelling cultural figure.
That blend of high culture, diplomacy, and deeply challenging history really sets the stage for his career. Let's move into Section 3, the breakthrough. This is where that classical training meets the global audience.
And it happens first via the stage and then through television.
His commitment to theater is absolute. It started right back in 2001. After university and LAMDA, he dedicated himself completely to the London and regional stage.
His move to the West End, the big time, arrived in 2005 with the revival of Hedda Gabler. He played George Tesman.
And this immediately got him attention. It earned him an Olivier Award nomination for Best Performance in a Supporting Role. This early recognition showed he was a heavyweight in classical productions right from the start.
Then came the success of Sir Terence Rattigan's After the Dance in 2010.
At the Royal National Theatre, yeah.
Yeah.
He played a 1920s aristocrat, David Scott Fowler, in a critically acclaimed run that won 4 Olivier Awards for the production itself.
But the career-defining moment on stage was undoubtedly 2011's Frankenstein.
Frankenstein, directed by Danny Boyle, was a theatrical phenomenon. The concept was just brilliant. Cumberbatch and Johnny Lee Miller alternated the roles of Victor Frankenstein and the creature.
On alternate nights.
On alternate nights.
That demands a level of versatility and immediate recalibration that, few actors could ever pull off.
Think about it. To convincingly portray both the hubristic, intellectual scientist and then the next night, the wounded, physical, deeply emotional creature, that's truly remarkable.
It was an extraordinary feat of endurance and range.
And it earned him the coveted Triple Crown of London Theatre in 2011.
Which means he secured the Olivier, the Evening Standard Award, and the Critics' Circle Theatre Award for Best Actor, all for the same performance.
In the UK, winning all 3 is often cited as the absolute pinnacle of stage acting recognition. It's the grand slam.
And he didn't rest on those laurels either. He returned to the stage in 2015 for a run as Hamlet.
At the Barbican, yeah. A highly anticipated 12-week run that sold out immediately. It became a cultural talking point. Its ticket demand breaking records.
And that earned him his 3rd Olivier nomination. So while he's conquering the stage, he's simultaneously building this huge presence on television.
And the bridge to wider audiences began with prestige television, particularly biopics.
His first major main part on television was playing Stephen Hawking in the 2004 film Hawking.
And that role immediately established his command over these intense intellectual subjects, which would become, a recurring theme in his career.
That early performance won him the Golden Nymph, and crucially, a BAFTA TV Award nomination. It signaled to the industry that he possessed the depth required for these high-stakes, real-life portrayals.
He also appeared in To the Ends of the Earth in 2005 and Stewart, A Life Backwards in 2007 alongside Tom Hardy.
But the undisputed moment of global change was Sherlock, which premiered in 2010.
Sherlock just redefined what a modernized classic could be. His portrayal of Sherlock Holmes, running from 2010 to 2017, was sharp, moody, and deeply contemporary. It launched him into the stratosphere of global recognition.
And the awards followed the fame. He won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor for the third series episode, His Last Vow, in 2014.
Which confirmed that the show wasn't just a commercial success, but a critical giant.
Now, we cannot discuss Sherlock without analyzing the fan culture that exploded around it. The sources confirm the intensely enthusiastic and at times aggressive nature of his fan base.
We're talking about the explosion of the big three fandom, Super Sherlock.
On platforms like Tumblr. Right. For those who might not remember, that was the massive combined online fan community built around Supernatural, Doctor Who, and Sherlock.
And it created this really aggressive environment because it turned him into a digital commodity overnight. Super Sherlock was known for its sheer scale, but also for this deeply personal, almost proprietary connection fans felt to the characters.
And by extension, to the actors.
Exactly. And this resulted in an intense surveillance culture, speculation, and boundary crossing that many classical actors are simply unprepared for. It's the moment the intellectual heartthrob became a digital obsession.
And even after Sherlock concluded, he continued to choose these high-quality, character-driven miniseries.
In 2012, he starred in Parade's End, adapted by the master Sir Tom Stoppard. That earned him his second Emmy nomination.
The roles he selects are always so demanding. Look at Patrick Melrose in 2018.
Oh, what a performance. Playing the titular role of a deeply damaged aristocrat dealing with childhood trauma, addiction, recovery.
That performance was so visceral and layered, it won him the BAFTA TV Award for Best Actor.
And his television work even delves into recent political history. In 2019, he portrayed the political strategist Dominic Cummings,
the key figure behind the Vote Leave campaign in Brexit, the uncivil war. It's a testament to his versatility that he can tackle historical figures like Turing and contemporary, polarizing figures like Cummings.
And looking ahead, his continued involvement as executive producer and lead in the new Netflix miniseries, Eric just confirms his focus on these high-stakes, psychologically complex projects.
Okay, so he's established on stage and television. Let's transition to the big screen. Section 4, film career. And here we see that fascinating balance between critical biopics, period dramas, and the sheer scale of the blockbuster franchises.
His big screen career really solidified around 2006. While a film like Starter for 10 was a launchpad, it was his role as William Pitt the Younger in Amazing Grace that earned him a key early nomination from the London Film Critics Circle.
So he was quickly carving out a niche in these quality period pieces.
Yeah, he was in Atonement, the other Boleyn Girl creation. But his visibility increased sharply in 2011 when he played Peter Gillam in the critically acclaimed adaptation of John le Carré's Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
That's such a great film.
A masterpiece. And that led directly to the award-baiting biopics where he just excels. His portrayal of Alan Turing in The Imitation Game in 2014 was a massive, career-defining moment.
Earning him his first Academy Award, Golden Globe, and BAFTA nominations.
And he achieved that same phenomenal critical success again, relatively recently, in 2021 with his second Oscar nomination for The Power of the Dog.
Can you describe that performance for us? Because it was so different.
His performance as Phil Burbank was a masterclass in menace. He played this volatile, charismatic rancher, a coiled spring of repressed hostility and psychological complexity, who was just deeply isolated by his own masculinity and trauma.
It was a complete transformation from his typical intellectual roles.
And it showcased the depth of his classical training. But it's also important to note his deliberate choice of historical narratives, even when they put him in morally ambiguous positions.
Like his brief but very impactful appearance as British Colonel Mackenzie in 1917.
Or his role as William Prince Ford, a slave owner in 12 Years a Slave back in 2013.
These are not roles chosen for comfort. They're roles that engage with challenging historical truth.
And he kept playing these real-life intellectual giants. Thomas Edison in The Current War in 2017, Louis Swain in The Electrical Life of Louis Swain in 2021.
Right. Now for the blockbuster phase. The part that makes him recognizable in every corner of the globe. The part that generates the social capital he uses for his activism.
The pivot was 2013. Star Trek Into Darkness, where he played the antagonist, Khan.
That immediately placed him in the global franchise stratosphere.
But even more fascinating, technically, was his dual role in Peter Jackson's The Hobbit series. From 2012 to 2014, he provided the voice and, significantly, the motion capture for both Smaug the Dragon and the Necromancer.
This is where we get that incredible anecdote that really breaks down the glamour of digital performance. How did he describe that motion capture process?
It was wonderfully human and hilariously grounded. He described it as a total act of imaginative theatrical immersion. He said, and I'm quoting here, "You just have to lose your shit on a carpeted floor."
In a place that looks a little bit like a mundane government building.
It was just me as well, with 4 static cameras and all the sensors.
I find that remarkable. He's bringing the same classical intensity he used for Hamlet to a carpeted room, transforming into a massive gold-hoarding dragon through pure physical commitment.
That dedication to theatrical movement makes him perfectly suited for the modern digital blockbuster.
And that paved the way for his most visible and defining franchise role, Dr. Stephen Strange in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is where he became a global face.
And the scale of that commitment is phenomenal. He debuted in Doctor Strange in 2016, and he has maintained a consistent and central presence. He's been in Thor, Ragnarok, Avengers, Infinity War, Endgame.
Spider-Man. No Way Home, Multiverse of Madness.
And the commitment continues for years to come. He is set to reprise his role in the upcoming Avengers, Doomsday in 2026, and Secret Wars in 2027.
He has cemented his place as a pillar of one of the largest media franchises in history.
And that gives him guaranteed visibility and, crucially, massive capital, both financial and social, to pursue all his other interests.
And just rounding out his film work is recent collaboration with Wes Anderson in the short film The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar in 2023.
It shows his continued deliberate balance. Blockbuster scale funding the pursuit of art house prestige.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 5, exploring his multidisciplinary talents and, most importantly, the activism that defines his use of that massive platform.
His versatility extends way beyond the traditional stage and screen. He's expressed a real affection for radio, a medium that depends entirely on voice and narrative skill.
And his role as Captain Martin Creef in the BBC Radio 4 sitcom Cabin Pressure is a huge fan favorite.
A huge favorite. It ran from 2008 to 2014, and it's a completely different kind of performance light, comedic, reliant on timing.
He also played young Rumpole in adaptations of John Mortimer's work and portrayed the physicist Werner Heisenberg in Copenhagen for BBC Radio 3.
And his distinctive, resonant voice is utilized everywhere for narration. He narrated documentaries like South Pacific and Jerusalem. He did the audiobook of William Golding's The Spire.
And for a touch of historical immersion, in 2014 he read the original BBC radio bulletins for the D-Day 70th anniversary. He can inhabit historical moments with his voice alone.
But here's the curveball. The detail that truly proves the man contains multitudes.
The unexpected musical turn.
Yes. In 2016, he appeared live on stage with David Gilmour, the legendary Pink Floyd guitarist, at the Royal Albert Hall.
And he sang lead vocals on Comfortably Numb,
taking the verses originally sung by Roger Waters. From Titania to Khan, from Hamlet to David Gilmour's stage. That's a range few actors can claim.
And speaking of range, we have to highlight his skill at impressionism. He's not just an actor, he's an astonishing mimic.
Vulture magazine actually dubbed him the new king of celebrity impressionists.
He's publicly imitated Alan Rickman, Tom Hiddleston, Michael Caine,
John Malkovich. He even tackled Chewbacca and Taylor Swift.
That ability to pivot from deeply serious drama to a pitch-perfect Chewbacca impersonation on a late-night show is exactly what bridges the gap between the classical artist and the modern cultural icon. He just refuses to be pigeonholed.
And he's also moved into controlling the creative process himself. In late 2013, he co-launched the production company Sunny March Ltd. With Adam Ackland.
Their first project, the crowd-funded short film Little Favor, shows they are willing to take risks on independent projects.
Yeah, we arrive at the most crucial aspect of his contemporary influence, his charity and political advocacy.
His CBE was awarded for both arts and charity, and he is fiercely committed.
His focus initially centered on health and youth. He's an ambassador for the Princess Trust and a patron for organizations like the Motor Neurone Disease Association, the MNDA.
Which stems directly from his role as Stephen Hawking.
Directly. He actively participated in the Ice Bucket Challenge for MNDA and helped establish a recovery fund for the ALS Association.
He also champions the Duke of Edinburgh's award program. He recognizes the importance of opportunities for young people and has said his ambition is to extend the award to hundreds of thousands across the UK.
But he doesn't shy away from controversial political advocacy, even when it risks alienating parts of his fan base. He was involved early on, joining the Stop the War Coalition protest against the Iraq War in 2003.
And he addressed activists in a 2010 trade union congress protest against spending cuts to the arts.
The refugee crisis, however, seems to have been the moment his activism became a central part of his professional life.
Delivered directly from the stage.
It was incredibly public. In September 2015, during the curtain calls for his sold-out Hamlet run at the Barbican, he publicly condemned the UK government's response to the migrant crisis. These weren't subtle nudges, they were impassioned speeches.
And those nightly speeches galvanized support. They resulted in the successful fundraising of over £150,000 for Save the Children by the end of the Hamlet run.
That's using your platform for immediate, measurable good.
Yet, this public advocacy drew significant criticism. Some people challenged him to personally house refugees, saying his actions were just talk.
And this led to a very interesting defense from him.
He responded by explaining that while he wanted to help, his property was unusable at the time. He said his house was empty, it's gutted, there's no electricity or water.
And he had a young baby in his flat and lacked spare rooms.
That statement is fascinating because it forces an analysis of the limits of celebrity activism.
Was it a complete defense? Perhaps not. But he later reflected in 2017 that he understood the criticism, but stated he was trying to raise awareness that we can do more as a society. He didn't regret putting himself in the firing line.
It shows a commitment to using his voice even when it invites personal attack.
And beyond refugees, he is a longtime vocal supporter of LGBT+ rights and identifies as a feminist. He's always signing open letters and actively participating in the community.
He cemented that commitment by officiating the same-sex marriage of his friends, including the TV personality Robert Rinder in 2013.
And following his celebrated role as Alan Turing, he became a signatory on an open letter calling for pardons for all gay and bisexual men convicted under those historical indecency laws, not just Turing.
And we have very recent examples of this political engagement, tying back to the current geopolitical landscape, which is incredibly rare for an actor with such large franchise commitments.
As of 2025, yes. His involvement in activism concerning the Gaza humanitarian crisis has been very visible. In May 2025, he joined over 300 public figures in an open letter,
calling on UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer to end the UK's complicity in the horrors of the crisis. These are demands that carry real political weight.
They're demanding things like an immediate arms embargo.
He also participated in the Together for Palestine benefit concert in September 2025,
where he recited Mahmoud Darwish's moving poem, "On this land there are reasons to live."
And in December 2025, he was among more than 200 cultural figures calling for the release of the jailed Palestinian leader Marwan Barghouti.
This demonstrates a sustained and, I think, calculated willingness to align himself with controversial international causes, knowing full well the commercial risk that entails.
That level of sustained, visible political engagement is exactly why Time magazine considered him so influential. It shows that for him, the platform is inextricably linked to responsibility.
Let's move to our penultimate section, Section 6, the public and private self, exploring how he navigates the intense scrutiny generated by that fame.
The moment Sherlock exploded, he became a massive cultural fixture. He acquired that now famous moniker, the thinking woman's crumpet.
Which implies his appeal is intellectual and witty, rather than just aesthetic.
And his status was confirmed by the British Council in 2014 when they surveyed young adults abroad. They ranked him among key British cultural icons, alongside figures like William Shakespeare, Queen Elizabeth II, and David Beckham.
He truly is a contemporary definition of British cultural output.
But with that hyper fame comes a terrifying loss of privacy. This is illustrated by that disturbing cyber-stalking incident in his London home.
This is the dark side of that intense Superwholok fandom we mentioned. He recounted the shock of realizing that someone was live-tweeting his movements in real time.
Making him feel that they knew everything I'd done in a day and told the rest of the world in real time.
It shifts celebrity from admiration to dangerous surveillance.
It's a shocking invasion that speaks to the aggressive boundaries crossed by modern fandom. But he also faced moments of intense personal danger that predated his biggest fame.
The South Africa abduction in 2005.
Right. This happened while he was filming To the Ends of the Earth in KwaZulu-Natal. He and two friends were carjacked and held at gunpoint.
By a group of locals after their car burst a tire on a rural road. They were bundled into the car, and driven away.
That experience must have been absolutely traumatic.
It was a near-death experience. They were eventually released without explanation. But the incident became profoundly philosophical for him.
He reflected that it taught me that you come into this world as you leave it, on your own.
And it cemented his desire to live a life less ordinary, actively seeking meaning and purpose outside the normal confines of a celebrity existence.
And there's that uncanny, almost cinematic detail to the story. The song they were listening to right before the tire burst.
Radiohead's How to Disappear Completely.
It's an eerie soundtrack to a temporary disappearance.
And he later said the song now reminds him of a sense of reality and a reason for hope. It speaks to how profoundly life-altering and clarifying that trauma was.
This philosophical grounding is also reflected in his affinity for meditation and mindfulness.
And his subscription to Buddhist philosophy. Perhaps a lasting impact of his time volunteering in that Tibetan monastery during his gap year.
Finally, despite the intense public spotlight, his private life seems remarkably anchored.
He married the theater and opera director Sophie Hunter in 2015.
And the way they announced their engagement was so wonderfully traditional and understated for a global star. It was placed in the forthcoming marriages section of the Times newspaper.
After what was described as a 17-year friendship, they married on Valentine's Day 2015, and they have 3 sons.
And we know they prioritized family safety during the global pandemic, choosing to live in New Zealand while he was filming The Power of the Dog.
Taking advantage of that relatively safe haven.
His life truly represents this amazing blend of extreme classical professionalism, massive popular appeal, and these profound, sometimes traumatic, personal experiences that continuously fuel his social commitment.
So we arrive at the final question. Let's synthesize the impact of this remarkable career. What does it all mean?
Well, it means that Benedict Cumberbatch's career is defined by a rare balance, a kind of high-wire act. He used those deep classical roots, the M.A. in acting, the Olivier wins, the ability to play Hamlet, to gain the stature necessary to conquer massive commercial fields.
Like Marvel and motion capture work. The blockbuster phase isn't just about fame for him, I don't think. It's about generating the cultural and financial capital that allows him the freedom to pursue politically sensitive, controversial, and often poorly paid activist work.
The Doctor Strange money funds the refugee advocacy.
In a way, yes. And all of that success, the immense platform it generates, is constantly filtered through that tension we discussed right at the top.
The juxtaposition of his inherited wealth, derived from the historical injustice of slavery in Barbados.
And his current position as one of Britain's most prominent liberal activists and advocates for refugees and marginalized groups.
He is grappling publicly with the legacy of historical injustice and inherited privilege.
And using the voice gifted to him by his talent and fame to actively fight modern injustices.
It's a powerful, if complicated, model for the modern cultural figure. He is forced to confront the implications of an uncomfortable, privileged history while using his global platform to demand better from society today.
Precisely. And it raises a huge defining question for you, the listener, to mull over long after this deep dive ends.
What does this tension reveal about the responsibility of modern celebrity?
When your status is built, even in part, on historical wealth derived from a terrible injustice, does active and visible social advocacy become a moral necessity? Is it a form of personal, ongoing reparation that goes beyond mere charity?
Or is the legacy of the past so indelible that no modern action, however well-intentioned, can ever truly compensate for the origin of the power itself?
That is the necessary complexity of his influence. His legacy won't just be about the roles we celebrate, but about the uncomfortable, necessary truths his very existence forces us all to confront.